Welcome to the Super Sentai Brothers. This is episode 50 of A View to a Kakuranger. It's 50 episodes. This is our 50th episode of this season, Dave, and we're not done yet.
That is a true thing.
Every week we have been and will continue for a couple of weeks yet to watch an episode of Ninja Sentai Kakuranger and share our thoughts on it with you, the listeners. My name is Matt J. With me, as always, is my co-host and brother. You've already heard him. It's Dave. Dave, how are you doing today?
I'm well.
Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be here, Matt. Thanks for having me back.
You know, every week I think who will be my co-host this week, and I always just come right back to you.
Well, it's nice to be considered.
Always. There was that one time.
There was that one time.
So today we're watching episode 50, as aforementioned. It is called Special Selection Youkai In. But before that, Dave, Shining in the Heavens, there are 5 stars. And would you like to hear what our first star of the week is?
Hit me.
Okay, so...
I tried that one out. It's not. You'll never hear that one from me again. Yep, nope. Not a catchphrase, just I wanted to see how it felt. And it felt real bad. So we're going to never do that again. So, Matt, just tell me about the first... Pull me out of this pit, man. Tell me about the first star.
So the first star is that sometime in the middle of last week, I had a dream. And I know what you, the listeners, are thinking. You're thinking, I don't want to hear about your dream, Matt. Like, no one ever wants to hear about anybody else's dreams.
Yeah, it's other people's dreams are interesting for maybe 20 seconds. Because basically what you're doing is you're telling someone about a really strange movie, but you're not explaining it well, and they can never see it.
Yes. Yeah, and like you're doing your best, but there is no good explanation. But in this dream, I was going on like a business trip, and I was driving around in a city I was unfamiliar with, and I took a wrong turn, and then all of a sudden the road that I was on became like a log flume. Like I was in like a lumber yard, and there was a log flume, and like people were not meant to be up there, and I ended up like dangling from the edge of a precipice, like trying to stop myself from falling to my death. And then eventually, like the fire department was called or whatever, and I somehow got down safely.
Okay. And an eagle rescued you, whatever.
Something like it was not even that interesting. Here is why I'm bringing it up at all. Is because in the dream, while I was still asleep, once I had gotten to safety, my very first thought was, oh man, I have got to open up like the Google Doc and write this down, because this is going to be perfect for the 5 stars this week. Like I'm always looking for stuff for the stars. Sometimes we really have to scrape the bottom of the barrel to get stuff together. I'm so glad I had this amazing life or death experience where like this totally bizarre fluke thing happened, and I can tell everybody about it, and it's going to be such great audio. And I woke up, and I was still, for a few minutes after waking up, really excited before I remembered, like, oh, no. This is not a real thing that happened to you, Matt. You were just, even in your dreams, obsessed with trying to find things to fill up the 5 stars.
Well, no, this works. It's just super meta, because if you hadn't thought in the dream about it being a good star, it wouldn't be a good star. But because you thought about it being a good star, it became one.
I have somehow willed it into being. So that's all, really. There's not a whole lot going on with that one. I just really wanted to share it with you. Dave, what is our second star of the week?
So our second star of the week, man, is I just finished up my LARP season for the year. I just got out to an event. Yeah, I had a great time. I only went for part of it, but our sister Katie, another friend of ours, came to help Beth watch the babies. And so I was able to get away for the day and go down to the event. And it was just super fun. So... we've explained LARP before. It's Dungeons & Dragons, but it's out in the woods, and you're running around with a foam sword, and you're hitting your friends with that foam sword, and there's a story and all sorts of other stuff. It's super, super fun, and we finished up like a giant plot line which was really, really cool because one of the neat things about LARP is that like players come and go, but the game persists, right?
Right.
And so this is a plot line, no joke, I want to say like 15, 20 years.
Oh, wow. So this is not just like the end of like the LARP season, so you're doing like the season finale event. This is like some like multi-generational thing.
Yeah, this is from like way back. Like the dudes who started the game introduced like the evil fortress of Kaz. And we finally destroyed it this event. And man, it was just like, it was so much fun to get out and have some fun with my friends. I did like every moment that I wasn't spent like actively engaging in LARP, I was thinking about the babies. I was like, but what if they're doing something super cute and I miss it? So that was a weird experience. I know I felt very sweet when I did it. I was just like, all right, Dave, like being, doing it right. Good job. Here's my I only had like one bummer experience at the event. And
oh, well, please share it with us. If there's one thing we need in our lives, Dave, it's more bummers. No, lay it on me.
It's just, like the whole, okay, because LARP very much like like role-playing games is like an inherently silly activity.
Sure.
And so you have to recognize that it's silly and then treat it with like an extra layer of seriousness in order to like get the serious drama moment out of it.
Sure.
And then like when you're having like a serious, like you're having a cool like dramatic moment and somebody's like, fart noises. It's like, man, could you not please? It's actually, so I've been listening, Matt, to The Adventure Zone on your recommendation. And
how are you enjoying it?
I'm really, really digging it. I'm not I'm not surprised by that at all.
Sure.
But I try to take the babies for walks, and so that's when I have some time to listen to podcasts. And the only thing I am noticing about it is that I feel like, and if you don't listen to the podcast, like bear with me for 30 seconds, is that Griffin and Travis are way more invested in there being like powerful dramatic moments in the story. Because like Griffin will like alley-oop something and then Travis will pick it up and like run with it and having like a really serious like full-on dramatic like Dungeons and Dragons moment. And then Taco comes in. It's like, hey, what's up, guys? And I'm like, Justin, you're super, super funny, but like, this is a moment, man. Come on, like join in the drama of the moment.
I think what is really fun about that podcast that you will sort of get to as you continue listening to it is by the end of the show, like everyone on it has gotten better at both the comedy angle of it and the drama angle of it.
Oh, nice. Well, yeah, like I said, I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, man. So LARP was great, and I know some of the people that play do listen to the podcast. So guys, great season closer, and nope, that's it. I was about to say something else, but it was just going to be about how cool my character was. So I'm not going to say that.
Oh, the only thing less interesting than other people's dreams is other people's D&D characters.
So true. What, Matt, is our third star of the week?
Dave, speaking of things that are in seasons that are coming to the close, the Cleveland Indians just finished up a 22-game winning streak.
Yeah. Very exciting. It's at least one record. I guess it's like disputably a Major League Baseball record, but it's definitely like whatever league they play in record.
It's definitely an American League record.
Thank you.
I think that the only record they haven't beaten is the maybe they tied the 1935 Cubs. And like the 1916 Giants had a 26-game winning streak, but there was like a tie game in the middle of that.
Yeah, it's like a weird baseball technicality. I don't quite understand it.
I don't quite understand it. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at here. Is like I don't
really understand it.
I spent the last like week and a half very excited about baseball, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like I don't understand baseball. I mean, I understand it on like a very like base level. I know what most of the rules to the game is. And so like when I'm watching it, I can see what's happening. But when people are talking about like, oh yes, like the beautiful poetry of like a pitcher throwing a ball, like I just don't see it. Like I have not trained my eyes to do it. But everyone else is getting so excited around me that I'm getting like caught up in it. And I was thinking about it the other day and I realized like, oh, this is what it's like to be a dog. Because, like, if you're a dog and you're in a room and all of the people in that room are, like, all of a sudden doing something, the dog will just start, like, jumping around and barking. The dog doesn't know what's going on. It just
has
recognizes
no idea.
that, like, there's a certain amount of, like, emotional energy in the room and it responds to it. And that is absolutely how I feel watching, like, big sports stuff.
I feel like baseball of all of the major league sports, maybe just because we've been playing it the longest. I don't really know. I know we've been playing football for a real long time too, but baseball has the most. And producer Mark is great to have around because he loves this stuff and is like super knowledgeable about it and really likes talking about it. Like baseball has much more like weird arcana surrounding it than other sports do. And even though I don't actually super love baseball, and last year's World Series has really soured me on watching baseball, I am super interested in like a weird arcana basically about anything. Like I don't actually dig baseball that much, but I absolutely watched Ken Burns' documentary about baseball.
Oh, dude. I mean, listen, baseball is cool. Baseball documentaries are the business.
Yeah, they're so great, guys. Like even if you don't dig baseball, for real, give them a watch.
We talked about the battered bastards of baseball, didn't we? I think that was a star at some point.
Maybe, yeah, man, maybe we did. I don't quite remember.
Anyway, if you haven't seen that one, you should totally watch it. You'd love it.
I'll check it out.
Anyway, that's all. I just wanted to mention that weird moment I had of realization. Dave, what is our fourth star of the week?
So the fourth star of the week, Matt, is that Beth and I just we went out to dinner with the babies, which is super fun because they're starting to get old enough where we can like set them down in high chairs next to us and just kind of give them. Like, we're paying attention to them, obviously, but, like,
sure, obviously.
You know, like, we can give them food, and they will, like, pick it up and eat it and sort of, like, look around and, like, babble at each other and at us. And then we can actually eat dinner, like, while we're feeding them, which is super great. And
sure.
They're starting to, like, eat solid food and everything. But have you... Okay, I was about to ask you a very bad rhetorical question, because it's such a bad rhetorical... It's so rhetorical, I absolutely know the answer to it, which is, have you ever tasted baby food in your... conscious memory? Because
I was going to say, I mean, like, I'm sure I did when I was a baby. But no, I have not in any time recently enough that I can recall tasted baby food.
Right, obviously. It's like universally terrible for reasons that I don't understand. Because I feel like, and this is the truth with a lot of baby things I'm discovering, is that I think people think of babies as like a fundamentally different species than adults. That like, oh, like a baby, as though it's not a person. And so, like, when they're making baby food, they make food that, like, no human being in their right mind would be interested in eating. And then they don't make it taste good. Like, it's baby food, and it's like, oh, it's like peas and carrots. Like, sure, I dig peas and carrots. Like, I'll taste that. And it's gross, because, like, there's no salt or seasoning or anything. So it's like, guys, when's the last time you, baby food manufacturer, sat down and ate yourself a dish of, like, plain, unsalted, unseasoned, unbuttered, boiled, mashed peas and carrots? Never.
I mean, it does not sound super great.
Yeah, never.
But I cannot imagine that when you go out to dinner and you are eating whatever, like, delicious food you have purchased at this restaurant, and you are, like, shoveling this stuff into their mouths, that they are... I have to imagine there's a certain degree of, like barely comprehended baby jealousy.
Yeah, no, they, like, they're upset for reasons they don't understand. We have basically, I'm going to be real, like, pretty much given up on baby food, like, for specifically that reason. It's just gross. So we just give them, like, tiny mashed up portions of whatever we happen to be eating, and they go nuts on it. which makes absolute sense because we eat good food. Like, we were at this Turkish restaurant, and we were like, all right, baby bear, like, you want some hummus? How do you feel about hummus? And he's just like, yeah, like, he's getting down on hummus.
Hummus is delicious.
Yeah, well, and also, like, hummus is basically baby food. You know what I mean? It's the same
like
consistency.
Baby food plus tahini.
Right. It's great. And so, yeah, baby food is gross, but they just, like, they dig actual food because, lo and behold, they're actual people. It was amazing. So we just had a really nice dinner, and baby food is real gross. What, Matt, is our fifth and final star of the week?
Dave, speaking of food, I made a mistake the other day.
Okay.
So I was going over to a friend's place after work, and I said, oh, like, I'm coming over after work. Should I bring anything? And they said, oh, pick up whatever drinks, but we will have already eaten by the time you arrive. So, if you want to, like, grab some food on the way over, like, that would probably be best for all parties.
Got it.
And so I said, okay. So I was stopping off at a local beverage store, and next to that store was a Burger King.
Okay.
You're familiar with this King?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Matt, let me pause you for like a hot second. Is this going to be a Burger King-centric star?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to, sometimes you feel good about what you've done, and sometimes I'm like, that wasn't the strongest recording. First of all, I think this is good. This is good audio on my end. But I feel like we are really spinning straw into gold here, because our stars this week have been Your Weird Dream, Baby Food, the Indians lost a game that we're not really sure about, and my D&D, my LARP character. So I just want to congratulate us, like, preemptively, but, like, before we finish. I just feel like we're doing very good work here. So
we're closing in on the end of our third season, Dave. We've got a few of these under our belts.
I was going to say, we figured something out at least. So please.
I wonder how many stars. Man, I wish so badly that when we had started this show, I had kept a running list of the stars every week.
We've talked about that before. We probably could have made it happen at some point.
We probably could have, but at this point, like, dude, we're almost like 160 episodes in, and the idea of, like, sitting down and writing all of that down would be a nightmare to me.
Yeah, that's awful. So no, please, Matt, tell me about this Burger King. Tell me about this.
So
is it that you ate it and it was very, very bad?
Well, okay, no, it's not that it was bad, because actually, like the mouth flavor was fine. Like, when I put it in my mouth and I chewed it up, it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was that I don't visit the King that often, right?
Yeah.
I'm not down with the monarchy, Dave.
Right.
I like democracy. And so I typically will go to a less regal burger chain. But this time, it was convenient, and so I stopped in. But the problem with not going to a place that often and then sitting in a drive-thru is that when it comes your time to order food, you feel very pressured to order your food immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are other people waiting.
Yeah, right. Because yes, it's a fast food restaurant. Like, you got to be fast. Like, everybody has to agree, like, to be fast about it.
And so I'm sitting there, and, like, the sun is in my eyes, and I can't quite read the menu, and I'm just, like, talking to the person on the other end of the microphone, and they say, well, listen, if you can't decide what you want, then let me recommend, we've got a deal right now. Like, if you get 2 Whoppers, it's like $6.
Okay. That's a lot. A Whopper's a fairly large sandwich.
Well, see, this is what I'm getting around to, Dave. Because I was listening to that, I'm like, a Whopper is usually what, like $4 or something? Like, a Whopper is an expensive sandwich. I never get them.
Get them.
Like, when I go to Burger King, I'll usually get, like a Whopper Jr. or something.
It's such a good deal.
Like, I'm going to treat myself. This is such a good deal. I'm going to get both of these Whoppers. So I order the Whoppers. I get around to the window. I give them my card. They hand me a bag. The bag weighs about 3 times more than I really expected it to. And for a moment, I thought, boy, they put a lot of napkins in this bag.
That's not what happened.
No, what happened is that each individual Whopper is roughly the size of my... If I put both of my hands together, like, I feel like that is the size of a Whopper.
Yeah.
And it's way too much. But I was sitting in my car like, well, I ordered this food. Like, I feel like it would be a waste if I like just didn't eat it. And so I just, I tucked into Whopper 1.
So
and
that's
I got to the end.
Your third. That's a third in a consecutive chain of mistakes.
Listen, it was the end of a long week. I was just trying to get to my friend's house. And I just had to get through some stuff first. So I sit there, I tuck into Whopper number 1. I polish it off. I'm like, okay, I'm still feeling pretty good. I've got this other Whopper here. I'm not going to throw away an entire Whopper.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not going to leave it in my car, because if I leave it in my car for any length of time, then my car will, for the next, 48 to 72 hours, smell exactly like old onions.
Yep.
Which I just cannot abide. So I start eating this second Whopper and just listen, I'm sorry to have brought us this long and not have a super good resolution to this story. I feel like we've already kind of touched on all the points, but dudes, don't accidentally order 2 Whoppers, and if you do, don't do what I did. Just when you start to feel uncomfortable, just get rid of it. There's no need.
You don't need to. You
Save
don't need
yourself.
to watch Game of Thrones, and you don't need to eat the second Whopper. You don't need to.
These are our public service announcements.
Well, Matt, we've got some other announcements to make. And they are also a public service, I feel.
Are they concerning episode 50 and Ninja Sentai Kakuranger Special Selection Youkai In?
Got it in one.
All right. Well, let us then go watch that episode, and then come back here, and then discuss that self-same episode. And we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. So we've just finished watching episode 50. It ruled, and now we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I feel like I've been leading back into the episodes by saying that exact same thing a lot for the last couple of weeks. But it's been a good stretch of episodes.
Yeah, I will say that it made no sense. The title made no sense. Because there's no special selection made. There's just not... I just don't even know why... I don't know where the idea for that title came from.
I mean, Youkai In was definitely involved. They could have just called it Youkai In.
Yeah.
Maybe this episode was a special selection, and the episode is Youkai In.
Man, sure. Why not?
So, as this episode starts off, it's nighttime in the woods, and you can tell that it's not like a peaceful night in the woods. This is a spooky night in the woods.
Yeah, it's super spooky.
There is sort of shaky cam happening, sort of eerie music, and then we see a child running through the woods, frightened, terrified, wearing his pajamas.
Yes. And so as he's running, some monsters arrive. We've never seen these monsters before, obviously. The kid screams. It looks like some branches reach down to attack him. It's not super clear.
Yeah, it's branches and vines and just everything that's around him sort of reaches out to grab him and pin him down.
Yeah. Heads up. That never happens again, and this is not a plant-oriented yokai at all. So...
It happens briefly near the end of the episode. Again.
Oh, okay. Awesome. No. Thank you.
And you're right. It's not a plant-oriented yokai, but... When we find out what this yokai is, this attack will make sense, and I think it's really cool.
Okay. So we flip over from there to the Rangers. The next day, we would assume.
By the way, I mean...
Oh, the kid
the branches
is got.
reached out.
That kid gets got.
Like a crazy evil monster who's got a big mouth, that a big sharp-toothed mouth that opens from ear to ear, floats out of the mist, and giant crazy eyes appear in the sky above the child, and
it's
he
super
shrieks,
cool.
And then the scene ends.
Yeah, the monster has it looks really neat because it's got what is clearly an appropriately sized mouth in the front of its face, but then it's got its real mouth extends all the way back in kind of a Glasgow smile kind of way. It looks really neat. So we would assume it's the next day, and we see the Rangers, and they're eating grilled corn.
Yeah, they're at a food cart, and they are just each of them, I swear, is eating 2 to 3 ears of corn at the same time.
Well, Tsurihime is only eating one. Saizo and Seikai, I think, definitely... Well, Seikai might have 3. That's not a joke.
I mean, that's our Seikai.
Yeah, and so they're eating grilled corn, and like the corn vendor is just I feel like we dive into the middle of a conversation because the corn vendor is just talking about like, oh yeah, kids have disappeared on that mountain. I think it's haunted. Don't go up there because you'll get eaten.
Look, if you go up to the mountain at night, a yokai will eat you.
Yeah,
5 children have gone missing.
The only thing that's really fantastic about this bit, aside from the fact that it's blatant exposition, is the fact that while he is telling them this story, the Rangers do not stop eating their corn. He's like, yeah, it's a yokai. And they're just like, oh, yeah, wow, geez. And at least a few of them, I can't remember which ones, are listening to him and are very concerned and are still definitely eating that corn.
You know, I sort of have to imagine that these are long days of shooting, you know, like when they're putting these episodes together. Mm-hmm. And they put a scene into this episode where they get to just like grill down on some corn. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, like... We are going to be shooting for the next 10 hours to get all this footage. I need to eat all of this corn as I possibly can.
Right. So the next scene is it's kind of nighttime. It's no, it's not nighttime yet. It's going to be. But they're in Nekomaru and they're driving up the mountain. And this, I love this moment. It's not actually funny at all. I forget who it is, but somebody asks Sasuke, like, so is this a yokai? And he says, I'm not sure, but we should check it out anyways. And I really, really dig that because, like, it speaks a little bit of world building that Sasuke recognizes. He's like, well, first of all, it's a weird thing, and so we should investigate it because, like, we are ninja superheroes. It might not be a yokai, but, like, it could be, and so if it is, I mean, like, we should look into it anyways. But if it is, like, that's definitely in our, like, wheelhouse, and we need to check it out. And I really dig that element, because I feel like we're getting way, way more of that sort of thing in Kakuranger than we got in either Dairanger or Jetman.
Right. The Kakuranger is, I think, sort of due to their nature is, like, they don't have a home base. Like, they're very nomadic. And so it feels like they feel a lot more like superheroes than the other Sentai teams do, right? Like, Jetman exists to fight, like, you know, the commanders from the Vyram dimension. Like, and that's pretty much all they do. But, like, the Kakurangers just, like, tool around and, like, try to find people to punch.
Yeah, they're kind of, like, the other teams sort of seemed like in a, how to describe it? Like militias, not in, like, a weird, not like Montana militias. Sorry if you're from Montana. But you know what I mean.
Right.
But, you know, just like, yeah, we just sort of like roll around or like we stay here and we fight those monsters. Whereas the Kakurangers they're just, yeah, you already said it. I'm babbling.
Well, it's late. By the way, we were recording late tonight.
Hey.
And so they're driving around and, you know, wondering about these yokai, and as is their custom, when they are driving around looking for yokai in the woods, they get lost immediately.
Yeah, super fast. Well, there's something, we do get a little blurb, Matt, that it might not be their fault this time, because they do have a map out, and they're looking at the map, and they're...
I mean, to be fair, it's usually not their fault. It's usually like yokai magic gets them lost in the woods.
Okay, well, that's exactly what I was going to say, is that this is some sort of yokai magic, because they pull up to they see these statues, and they're like, we've seen these statues 4 times or something. There's definitely something weird going on. This is super creepy. They like park, and they're like looking around, and Tsuruhime hears a crow caw, and it's like very weird. And they're just like, oh, we got to get out of here. This is super creepy. It's like, guys, you are literal ninja superheroes. You are the scariest thing out at night. Like, you're ninjas. This is your natural, like, this is your space, man.
And like, what, like, practically speaking, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to find a yokai. Well, great. That's what you're here for, dude.
You're here. That's the whole point.
But in any case, they get spooked, and out of some sheer coincidence, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, there is like an inn up in the mountains. There's a sign out front that says Grandma's house, and like the lights are on and it looks like a friendly house.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, great. Like there's an inn. We can stay there for the night and then resume this search in the morning.
Yeah. The Rangers, I love that they are not suspicious of this, despite having been in this exact literal situation before. Like, this same exact thing has happened to them with, I think it was the Neko, Bakaneko.
And I think what's really crazy about this is, like, they are specifically looking for yokai.
Yeah,
like,
okay.
They came up here to look for yokai. There's a thing that is clearly, like, a dangerous trap, and they're like, oh, cool, we'll stay here, and then in the morning we will resume our search for the yokai.
Okay, the only thing I can assume is that, like, as part of their yokai power, the yokai are able to, like, exert some sort of, like, subtle supernatural, like, illusion powers where it seems like much more, like, the illusion itself tricks you. It's not just that, like, it tricks you into thinking that there's something there. It also tricks you into being like, and that thing is also fine.
Well, okay, I will accept that in this case.
Listen, Matt, it's what I got.
So they go in, and they are greeted at the door by the titular grandma of Grandma's house.
Yes.
And she says, oh, like, welcome to the inn. You can all stay here. It's totally great. We'll get some dinner for you. Go wash up beforehand. Like, just like this sweet old lady.
And then the manager walks by, and he's, like, very dour. And she says, oh, don't mind him. He's the manager. So we go from there to the baths. There's, like, a bath area. And we get a lot more side butt than I would have anticipated.
Dude, that is exactly what it says in my notes is we see way too much of Seikai's side butt.
Yeah. It's like everybody else is in the bath, but Seikai is just like on a stool. And it's like you can see fully like half of this dude's butt.
Yeah. Now, Dave, when you say that they are in the bath,
still.
they are not in like a hot tub. They are not in a bath that like they all actually sort of fit in. I think there's just like a clawfoot tub that they are all like turned sideways and sort of like halfway sitting in.
Okay, Matt, I will actually jump in here. I have watched like I watched like a YouTube documentary about onsen, which is like the Japanese bath like thing. And sometimes they're very large and spacious. And sometimes it's not like a giant thing. It's more like the size of a smallish hot tub. So, but like that's just like, oh yeah, you're just taking a bath. It's totally cool. And so it's probably not like a clawfoot tub, but it's not luxurious.
Yeah.
Like no one's stretching out in this thing.
Exactly. Now there is some like bathhouse horseplay in here. Like Seikai is splashing water at everyone. They're all sort of like laughing and telling him to stop. They're having a good time.
Right. We
Tsuruhime
flip over.
Is in the other room, like by herself, luxuriating in the bath.
It's appropriate. It's good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And actually, like the way the show, like the way that this scene is shot is not at all lurid.
Oh yeah. Yes, definitely. I mean, unless
like
you're real into
way more of
sci-fi.
Seikai than you do of Tsuruhime.
You really do. And she's
when
like, "Oh, those boys."
When the baths end and the guys all leave their like bath area, they're walking out with like towels over their shoulder. And Dave, can we talk about Sasuke?
We haven't dipped in on Sasuke's outfit in a while. And I think really what we're seeing, Matt, is just the underlayer of what he's been wearing for a while.
See, that's the thing. We have finally peeled back the onion.
So he is just wearing, it's black bicycle shorts and then shorter jean shorts over that.
Well, okay, it used to be black bicycle shorts. Now it's just black leggings, like full leg leggings.
Oh, that's right. He is probably because it's cold. But
yeah,
he's been
now
wearing
it's
those
the winter
leggings
time.
for a minute.
Yeah, but what we haven't seen before, because like we had seen like a little like black turtleneck action like popping up underneath his like regular red plaid shirt rather.
Yeah.
What we did not realize is like this dude has gone full body glove. It looks like he's wearing a wetsuit with jean shorts on top of it because he is wearing a full length black turtleneck as his undershirt.
Mm-hmm.
And when he gets out of the bath, that's all it is. He's got turtleneck, leggings, jorts. It's beautiful.
I cannot get enough of this dude's fashion choices ever.
Okay, so they walk outside. They happen across the manager.
Yeah.
The manager has like a little chicken coop, right?
Yeah.
And the rangers say like, "Oh, are you planning to like get us some fresh eggs for this dinner that apparently we're about to be having?" And the manager says, "No, we're having chicken." And they get very sad, like, "Oh no, you're killing the chickens for us tonight." Like, no, don't do that. Like, we can eat something else.
Yeah, which guys, you eat meat like on the reg.
Yeah, but I will give it to them that it is different if like the chicken is right there and alive right now.
I mean, I guess
like if that is something that you are not accustomed to, then
okay. So anyways, the manager's like he's salty about it, but he says he'll make something else.
So as this is finishing up, Tsuruhime walks down the stairs and says, "Hey, I was just talking to the titular grandma, and she was saying that the little boy who recently disappeared, like, was also at this inn, like, just beforehand. Like,
right, like he showed up in the night or something. Like he showed up and was staying the night, but then in the morning he was gone."
Right. So, like, if we want to start searching for him, like, this, as it turns out, this is a really good place to start. So, like, everything's cool.
Yeah. Just sounds super convenient, guys.
Like you said, they must be getting, like, bamboozled.
Yeah, there's some weird thing going on here.
So we cut from here to the Flying Skull Castle, which is currently not flying. It's just like sitting on top of a bunch of trees.
They just have to have been like bored with the shot or something, because if you had a Flying Skull Castle, there's no reason for it to ever hit the ground. Oh, wait. Actually, Matt?
What?
Thinking about later on, let's remember this moment, because thinking about later on in this episode, there might actually be a reason that it would make sense for this thing to be on the ground.
Why, is it out of gas?
Yeah, actually, that is what I was going to talk about. Because whenever we get to the end and they have to fuel Nekomaru up, even though he's a magical cat thing, and there's no gas anywhere because of a earthquake. No, not because of gas. Good question is that. So we see Skull Castle, and we see Daimyo, and he is on his like throne, and there are two other monsters that we see in front of him. It's the same monsters we saw earlier in the episode, and it's Yamamba and Daidarabochi. And
now, we had gotten a good look at Yamamba before, but Daidarabochi we hadn't really seen.
And he looks rad.
Yeah, it's like his body looks like it is made out of like brass globes.
Yeah, sort of. It's a very, very cool look. He looks like the best kind of Final Fantasy monster, if that helps out at all.
Yeah. And when I say globes, I don't just mean spheres. I mean specifically, he looks like a bunch of like globes of like, the earth that you took and like turned into a monster. He's got like these giant round shoulders, but there's like, it looks like there are like the latitude and longitude lines on them and stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like topography, like sort of raised off of it. This dude looks great.
Yeah. So and he is, man, I actually went and looked up another picture of him just to like kind of catch another shot of it. And he actually looks even neater in the still shot, because I'm sort of catching up on some details that I didn't notice. He's got like huge forearms. Like he's got like his knuckles drag on the ground and they get bigger as they go along, sort of like Popeye fists. But they're also like made out of metal and have like giant studs on them. Like he just looks like a bruiser. He looks super cool.
This costume, and I don't remember any of the details on this because it's been a long time since I read this, but at one point I was reading up on like costumes that got sort of like modified between the Sentai series and Power Rangers. Because this costume does appear in Power Rangers, but like only parts of it. Because
no kidding. Okay.
It's like such like a big unwieldy costume that in the course of filming this episode and then shipping the costume from Japan to America, it got like all messed up. And so this costume does kind of appear in a couple of episodes or in one episode, but like it's totally different looking because they had to like scrap parts of it and rebuild other bits.
Oh, interesting. So anyways, it's just, man, I can't get over how cool this costume looked. It's like one of the neatest looking monsters we've seen yet. So they're
chilling out in this throne room. And
they're not chilling out. Like they're really upset, actually.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was using the sort of general chilling out, which just means they were existing in a place.
Right. Well, no, normally I would have let it slide, but like they're very not chill. So we find out that these two are Daimo's brother and sister.
Yes. And they're saying, like, listen, if the Kakurangers are here, if we three all go down, we can beat the Kakurangers.
Right.
And Daimo is like, whoa, don't bring me into this. Like, I'm not your brother.
Like,
but he is their brother.
Yeah, he's like, I am the king of the yokai. Like, if you want to do this, you could do it. But, like, I'm not kind of sullying myself with... I don't really know why his vibe is this. Aside from the fact that maybe he just wants to, like, put them in their place. Yeah. And because they say, like, even though we're from, like, the Daimo tribe, like, the other yokai, like, really don't pay us enough respect. Like, if we do this, it'll be cool. And
like, specifically, they don't pay these two enough respect because Daimyo's, like, they say, since you have sort of cast us away from you, the rest of the yokai don't respect us. Like, why are you doing this?
And he gives some sort of, like, it's a very weird answer. And he basically just that, like, he doesn't think they're that.
We get a good answer later in the episode, but at this point he just sort of brushes them off.
Yeah. So they sort of turn away and they're like, listen, well, we'll just kill the Kakurangers ourselves and then, you know, like, we'll sort of, like, get up there and, like, everything will be cool. You'll have to respect us and then we will sort of, like, take our rightful place, I guess.
Right.
And so they transform into their human forms and obviously it's Grandma and the manager.
Right.
So we go from there. We see Saizo waking up in the middle of the night.
Well, because he hears the chickens. The chickens in the coop that are outside. And he peeks out the window and he sees that the manager...
He freaks out kind of hard.
Yeah, like... I mean, listen. Based on what I know is happening, this is a scary thing.
Yeah.
Based on what Saizo has, like, the information for, this is literally just, like, the manager going into the chicken coop at night to grab a chicken to, like... probably kill it for breakfast in the morning.
Yeah, he loses it really hard. Like, he tries to wake the other Rangers up and for some reason is unsuccessful. Runs outside and
follows this dude into the woods. Where, by the way,
this is where it legit gets weird. Like, if Saizo's like, why are you taking that chicken into the woods with a sickle?
Which he is.
Yeah, which he is. Now, all of a sudden, I understand Saizo's motivation a lot more because that's very strange.
Yeah, like you don't just grab a sickle and wander into the woods at midnight if you are just a regular cool dude.
Right, that's something chill bros do. So he follows him, and all of a sudden...
Well, basically, we get a repeat of the beginning part of the episode where, like... replacing the little kid with Saizo. So, like, Saizo's in the woods. He gets attacked. The branches come out to, like, grab him. Yabamba and Daidarabochi all, like, both come out.
Yeah. Come out.
Well, again, Yabamba comes out. Daidarabochi, rather.
Yeah.
Like, you see, like, his shadow in the sky above.
Like,
with,
phantom
like, the big glowing eyes.
Yeah.
But you don't act like he does not come out to attack.
Which is really, really cool. Like, we'll get to why it's cool, and I want to, like, spoil it. So he does Saizo calls out for help. He calls out, he's like, Sasuke, Tsuruhime, Jiraiya! And then he keeps fighting. Like, he never calls... I don't know why. He's got beeped with Seikai.
Dude, he knows Seikai. There's nothing going to wake Seikai up.
Nothing's going to wake that dude up. But he doesn't... Oh, the scene just ends. Sorry, the scene just ends. So it's the next morning, and the Rangers are leaving Grandma House, and Saizo is there.
Yeah, so for a moment, I did not see him, because, like, the scene shots with them... the scene begins with them already in Nakamaru.
Right, it's
kind of I think that they've just somehow, like, forgotten that he's not there or not realized it yet. But no, he actually is there.
I had the exact same thought. Yeah,
He is there, but as we can tell, based on the dark eyeshadow around his eyes, he is evil now.
He's evil.
So they drive to the place where they had sort of first gotten lost before, where those like 4 Buddha statues were, and they pop out and they say, okay, let's separate up and we'll go look for this kid. They're wearing their sort of like ninja gear, and they're just going to like run through the woods and try to find the kid.
Mm-hmm. So they kind of pop out and they start looking for this kid, and Saizo... Wait, who's together again?
Saizo is with Jiraiya and Seikai.
That's right. So they're sort of like rolling out, and then Saizo stops and he sort of like turns backwards, and he hears like a secret command. It's like, now it's time, go ahead. And he attacks Jiraiya and Seikai.
Yeah.
So then there's a fight.
And it's a really cool fight because like they're having trouble with him because of course they don't want to kill him, but he's gone evil, so he does want to kill them.
Right.
But also like the terrain is getting very weird. Like fissures are opening in the earth and like trees are falling over and stuff.
Now we do find out that this is not actually Saizo. Like this is not a mind-controlled Saizo. This is a Saizo evil clone of some kind.
But at the end, like, a giant hand comes out to, like, swat at Jiraiya.
Right. Yeah, it's really, really cool. Daidara Ochi is already a giant. He kind of bursts from the ground. Matt, I had something in my notes that I was really trying to remember what I had written, because I just wrote, it looked like I had written Daisis, D-A-I-S-I-S, and I was like, what even is that? And I remember that I didn't remember Yamamba's original name, so I was just calling her Dai Sister.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's Daisis. That's what was in my notes. A little peek behind the curtain for all of you guys. So that Jiraiya and Seikai are down. Like, they're down, and then their doubles show up. Like, they're already prepared. But Sasuke and Tsuruhime are, like, hidden, and they observe all of this happen. Like, they don't arrive in time to help, but they do arrive in time to see Seikai and Jiraiya get replaced.
Right. And when this is happening, Yamamba is saying, like, this is super easy. Why has Daimao been having so much trouble killing these guys?
Yeah, like, this is not, like, what is going on?
So they take away Jiraiya and Seikai, and Tsuruhime and Sasuke come up with a plan. Yeah, we don't see them coming up with a plan, but we see that there is, we watch them do the thing. So Tsuruhime just sort of casually approaches the 3 evil doppelgangers. And is like, hey, have you seen the kid yet? We're still looking what's going on. And they sort of glower at her evilly. Like, listen,
and she, like,
I know that she already knows that they are evil, but if she did not already know, the looks on their faces, like, there is no other conclusion that you could reach based on, like, looking at those dudes.
Yeah, without question. But I really, really dig it because she plays it super well.
Yeah, and so and they say, oh, where's Sasuke? And she's like, oh, we got separated. It's cool. We'll meet back up together later.
Yeah.
Have you seen the kid?
Right. And they sort of, again, they do a little grin. And they attack her.
And she just goes down. She is not bothering to try to fight back. She goes down, her evil replacement comes out, and then they all sort of start to walk away. We cut sort of to behind a tree where Sasuke has been watching all of this because he wants to be able to trail them back to wherever they're keeping the other 3.
Yeah. So it's really, really cool. I love, because we've seen before in the last couple of episodes the Rangers executing sneaky plans, but we've only ever see it like ex post facto. Like, we see when they reveal the trick and they're like, oh, this is what we had already done, that now we're kind of seeing it in action, which I think is a little bit more, it's fun in a different way. Yeah. So the fake Rangers, they find Sasuke, and they say something that makes me think that, like, maybe they saw through this plan, and then they attack him.
Because he's following behind them, and all of a sudden ropes come out of nowhere and grab him.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And he was saying, how did you find out? And they're like, oh, we know all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
We're weird.
But then he, double planned on them, because, after a second of getting beat around, they all go to stab him, And then it's empty and it's just his clothes. And then he's already Hengade and he does full moon cross cut and he takes all of them out.
And when they all die, it turns out that these were not like disguised Dorodoros. These were snakes that had been turned into evil clones.
Yeah, which maybe Yamamba is like there's like a snake relation there. I didn't quite catch it, but
I don't know. But I thought it was snakes. A nice touch.
But he does see that there is a medallion. And he like looks at the medallion and he's like, oh, and then we got a flashback and Grandma was wearing that same medallion. So
right,
now
so
he
now
puts
knows.
together that like that's the whole deal. And then we get a rad sequence. There's like this giant earthquake. All right. And like stuff is moving all around. We get a literal whirlwind of fire.
Yeah, like a fire tornado.
It's not
amazing.
It is a practical effect. Like they just got a bunch of fans. Do you know how to do that, Matt? Like
I have seen it happen. I mean, not in person, but I've seen videos of people doing it.
Yeah, like you just a bunch of fans, but it looks amazing. And like you put fans in a circle and it creates a whirlwind and then you put fire in it. It's awesome. And so there's this and like all these things. And I did figure this out right before the reveal. Like I didn't even finish typing it, but I knew it in my heart that I had figured it out. That Daidarabochi is the entire mountain.
Yeah, so he's not like hiding beneath the mountain or like he doesn't have like earth controlling powers. They've just been on top of his giant body the entire time. And that is how that's how the bad guys always knew what the Rangers were up to, because like anytime that they were doing anything, like Daidarabochi was there. Because they were just on top of his giant yokai body.
So this is, amazing. I assume, this is like how they got lost. I'm assuming that he was somehow just like shifting his body around in such ways to like move the roads. And also I really dig, that's why they did like phantom eyes for him, because they really did a very good job of hiding the fact, like right up until this moment, that Daidarabochi was, like if you know the folklore, I guess you would have guessed it. But I didn't, and I did not figure it out until it was like right there in my face. It was super fun.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool moment for a really great monster.
Yeah. So Sasuke summons God Saruder.
And those two start to fight.
Yeah. We flip from there to Grandma, and she is sharpening a deeply impractical knife.
Well, it's like the monster prop knife, which looks good when a monster is holding it, but looks absurd when a human is holding it.
Right, and she's got it on like a whetstone, and she's like, but like, you can tell, she's just sort of like vaguely rubbing it on the whetstone in a way that makes no sense because this blade is 90% weird curves. Like you can't just, anyways, you can't just sharpen it like that. So she reveals herself. She turns from Grandma form into her Yamamba form. And we find out that Yamamba is a yokai that captures and eats people who get lost in the mountains.
Which is such a great combo with a yokai that masquerades as a mountain.
Yes, I did really dig that. And so here's what we find out is that, like, and they're like, oh my gosh, like, how is this possible? And she waves her arms, and the entire inn and everything disappears. Like, the whole thing was an illusion.
Yeah, and they ask, like, well, what happened to the children? And as many of you have probably guessed by this point, she waves her hands towards the chicken coop, and all of the chickens are actually kids.
Right. So
who've been, like, tied up.
Yeah, so she advances on them with the knife out. They're all tied up. There's nothing they can do.
Sasuke is busy fighting Daidarabochi.
Yep. And then as she, like, raises her arms to deliver the death blow, Sasuke's sword comes out. And he stops them, and Yamamba's is like, how did you get here? And he says, you underestimated us. And we look up, and we see Ninja Man has arrived, and he's giant, and he's fighting Daidarabochi, which means that Sasuke is free to get over here and fight for them.
Such a good moment.
Oh, man. And so he frees the other Rangers. They all henge. They sort of fight.
They do the cool running henge.
I always
like they're all
henge.
running together as a group, and then they just glow, and they've all transformed.
Yep.
And there's a cool moment, like listen, like the actual shot is not that cool, but like the idea behind it is very cool, where like the Rangers are fighting on the ground against a bunch of Dorodoros and Yamamba, and then there's like a ridge line of mountains, and behind that ridge of mountains they've sort of like cut the shot to have the giant ninja man and Daidarabochi fighting like in the background.
Yeah,
it's I mean, listen, you can definitely see like the cut. It's not like an amazing effect, but it's a very cool shot.
Yeah, no, it's a neat thing, and it really you know what it does is it really sells the action that's happening.
And it does a great job to sell like the scale of Daidarabochi.
Yeah.
Which I think is something that's very important that like sometimes gets forgotten, because of course when one thing becomes a giant, everything then just becomes a giant, and everything is like the same size again, except they're standing next to buildings instead of standing next to two, park benches.
Whatever it is, yeah. So the Rangers do really well. They use the Kakuranger Maru beam to finish Yamamba.
Well, sort of finish Yamamba to get Yamamba.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry, Matt. I apologize. I jumped forward a bit. Yamamba does like a real roll by because she's on what appears to be like a hoverboard. She just sort of like glides past them and does like an attack. And then we look up, and Muteki Shogun and Kakuranger Daishogun have arrived. And then Ninja Man.
Predictably, they go through like the series of finishers.
Yeah, well, there is one thing I want to say real quickly is that Ninja Man, they don't bother to have Daidarabochi call Ninja Man a novice. He just transforms into Samurai Man.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I didn't even register that.
Yeah, which does make me feel a little bit like the novice thing is only ever an excuse for Ninja Man.
Oh, sure.
Like he's just he needs to get that Samurai Man out, and this is the thing that he's chosen, but it's really just to justify it to himself, to justify his own anger, which Ninja Man, that's not a good way to cope with that.
So they do their series of finishers and they defeat Daidarabochi.
Yeah.
We cut back down to the ground fight where, as you say, they finish, well, they sort of chase Yamamba off with the, what is it called again?
The Kakuranger Maru beam.
Thank you. Where they all put their swords together and like there's a flash beam that comes from it. Yeah. By the way, before we finish off talking about this fight, I want to talk very briefly about like just the standard Dorodoro fight between the Kakurangers and the Dorodoros. It was a very good fight this week with a lot of like cool flips and moves.
Yeah.
And whenever we get near the end of a season, I sort of get like proactively nostalgic about like these kinds of fights, because like when we get to O-Ranger, like the giant robot fights are going to be largely the same, right? Like there'll be a different giant robot, but like that size of stuff is going to be the same. It's the stuff like either the untransformed or like the in-suit fights that happen on the ground that become very different season to season. And I really do like a lot of the work they do in this show.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's where you get a lot more personality from the Rangers themselves.
Oh, yeah. Which is crazy because they're all wearing like almost identical face masks.
Well, yeah, but...
no, I'm just saying it's very impressive. Anyway, that's like there aren't any cool jokes about that. I just wanted to point it out because we're not going to have too many more times to do it.
Yeah. So we go from there, and what we see is Yamamba is back in... Oh, I remember the thing I was going to say, Matt, about why it might make sense for Skull Castle to be resting on the ground instead of flying is because Daidarabochi is, in fact, the mountain.
Oh, and so like for him to be able to like project an avatar inside the Skull
or
Castle,
something like
the Skull Castle has to land there.
Yeah, that's something like that. So, anyways,
okay.
So we go back, and we're back in Skull Castle, and Yamamba is weakened but not dead,
and she is furious.
Yeah, super angry.
Not only that, like their plan didn't work, but that like now her brother is dead.
Yeah. Daimu doesn't seem to super care that Daidarabochi is dead, but he does turn to Yamamba and say something to the effect of like, well, now that Daidarabochi is dead, like, do you get it? Like, are you ready to like really throw down?
And she says, yes, like 100%. Like, my anger is like at its peak. And he was like, awesome. That is what I have been waiting for. Like, by the way, the reason that I like totally bailed on you guys was, and I don't know if we are supposed to believe Daimao in this moment, but what he tells her is like, listen, the reason I bailed on you as like a brother is because I have like compassion for you two because we are related. But I like Daimao, like being Daimao means that I have to have like an iron resolve and be like a, you know, an infallible evil ruler. And so I can't just like also be chilling with my brother and sister.
Right. And like I needed the vibe is, it almost seems as though honestly that he kind of set this whole thing up and was willing to sacrifice Daidarabochi, or really sacrifice one of them to get the other one like really ready to go.
Right. And so the way that it's worked out is that Daidarabochi is dead, Yamamba is furious, and Daimao says, okay, now it's time. Like, I'm going to pull down all this crazy evil power from like the big yokai cloud that's been swirling above the entire season and channel it all into you.
And like, are you ready? Yes, I am. And then
she
like
transforms into like, you know, her second form, which is, I think, importantly, a lot more agile than her first form, because her first form was like a big sort of like floating upside down cone.
But now she
like,
seems a lot more spry.
Right, she can really throw down in this new form, which I'm really looking forward to next episode, which I'm sure is what we're going to see.
Yeah.
And then we get a brief coda where like the Rangers are sort of all standing on the side of a, you know, like looking out to a pleasant vista with some mountains. Mm-hmm. Say like, oh, you know, she said that like that was her brother. She's not going to be happy that we killed him with giant swords. And so like we're going to need to watch out because she's going to be coming back at us.
Yeah.
And Surihime says, well, yeah, that's true. But, like, you know, we're the Kakurangers, and, like, we've been through this all before, and we're going to stick together, and we're going to win, and it's going to be great. And that is the end of our episode.
Yeah. Man, like, a rad episode. And what I dug about it is that this feels like a leading up to the end episode. Like,
finally.
Yes, it's kind of a freak of the week, but in that it's like a new monster, but it's building
as a freak
into
of the week.
Right. Exactly. It's a great transition episode. So the last thing we got to figure out, Matt, is where does Daidarabochi fit on the Creature Royale?
Dude, I think pretty high.
Pretty high. The only thing I think that keeps him from like an even higher spot is the fact that he's just not around for more than one episode. But
okay, so let's take a look at other comparable people who didn't have multiple episode arcs.
Okay.
My absolute basement, like, I am not willing to go below Apartment Dimension. I think he's better than Apartment Building Dimension.
I think he is. And that's even...
Yeah, like, if we have to compare two giant dudes who, like, you fought on top of and inside of, like, I'm going Daidarabochi over Apartment Building Dimension every day.
Yeah, okay. So he is, and like, dude, he looks like, I love the idea, and the shots that they did with, like, the things that they did with him, and the idea of him, you're fighting on this dude, that, like, he is the mountain, you are getting lost because he's, like, shifting himself around, he's, like, sticking his giant fist up to, like, hit you even while he's still in the mountain, and I just can't get over, like, I can't restate how rad this dude's look is.
Yeah, so so where are you looking at?
For real, I'm looking up at Tsuchigumo the Spider Monster.
Oh, you know what? Tsuchigumo the Spider Monster is a good comparison point.
Because he's really cool. He's got
one episode.
He's got one episode, and his, like, the lair element is super important for him, and I feel like in its own way, Daidarabochi is that same same thing.
Okay, so do you think he is better or worse?
Oh man, I think he's better. I really do.
I am inclined to believe
you. Really cool, but it's not like incredibly like imaginative. I don't think.
Yeah, and like honestly, Tsuchigumo was like crazy spooky. Like it really like hit those horror movie things very well.
Yeah.
But like I honestly don't know if they did it as well as in that episode as they did this time.
Yeah, I think you're right. So yeah, man, I think he goes right above Tsuchigumo, which puts him at spot number 8.
Wow. 7.
7. Sorry, 7. I always do that.
By the way, sometimes the reason that we say the wrong number and then immediately correct ourselves is we're looking at a spreadsheet, but the first row on the spreadsheet is like
the headers.
Like the headers.
Yeah,
and so like Jin the Demon Fist is number 1 on the list, but he is in row number 2, and so everything else just gets thrown off.
Yeah. So that's it
Little
for us.
peek behind that old curtain.
Hey. So that, Matt, I think is going to do it for us, right?
Yes, that, my friend, is going to do it for another episode of A View to a Kakuranger. Before we finish up here, I'd like to remind you all you can email the show at supersentaibrothers@gmail.com. You want to get any updates on future episodes or check out the things that we're talking about on Twitter, we are at Super Sentai Bros. If you like the show, and boy, at this point, if not, why are you still listening? It's right near the end of the season. If you don't like this one, just wait a few weeks. We'll be back. But seriously, keep downloading the show. We desperately need you. If you like the show, please remember that shining in the iTunes reviews section, there are 5 stars. Rate, review, subscribe on there. Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, anywhere that you find us. If you have a chance to tell people that you like it, go ahead and do that.
That would be super great.
You know what else is super great, Dave? Is the Super Sentai Brothers are a production of Retrograde Orbit Radio. To find all of the other great Retrograde Orbit Radio shows, you can do so at retrogradeorbitradio.com. Once again, we're the Super Sentai Brothers. I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
And we'll see you next week for the greatest show on Earth.